What is up, guys, and welcome to the channel. And I got a great guest with me today, Full Throttle Hog, Ryan. So I'm excited to have him on the channel with this live stream tonight. And I met Ryan at the Stubborn American Party, actually on our way to the Stubborn American Party. What 2 years ago now, and
Yep.
we've been at several events together, so to have him on the channel is just amazing.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So you were talking earlier about some upcoming trips. I know you were saying that you have a big one in July. So how long are you planning on being on the road for that month?
Well, yeah, it's gonna be almost exactly a month. I'll take off from here and I head up through um, probably Yosemite as I make my way up to Montana, and actually going up there to fly fish and do some filming up there. So I'm gonna ride, and I got my pops is gonna fly out there, and I'll meet them up there and do some fly fishing for a little bit, get some filming done in Montana, and then I'll cut over just in time for day one of Sturgis, and then I will loop it back around. So it'll be a good one. It'll be a long one.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I was trying to see if you were going to Milwaukee, but I know if you're hitting Sturgis and the fly fishing, but I'll be making Milwaukee at the end of July. Just Sturgis is not in the cards for me this year. But watching some of your films, seeing like Arizona Bike Week, I think that'd be a good one for me to hit up, especially trying to next year. Because seeing your films, Adams, of a lot of the roads out there, I want to get back out to the West Coast and do some riding. So what was your favorite road if you had to pick one road in Arizona or for Arizona Bike Week to ride, what would it be?
I would say it's a toss up. There's the road out to Tortilla Flat is a real good one. Technical road, you there's usually, just like all the rallies, you're going to have people that are not probably ready for that road, or they're riding it outside of their comfort level. So the road to Tortilla Flat is good, and then 89A going from Prescott up and over towards Jerome is a nice little road. I like the Tortilla Flat route a little bit better for the sheer fact that the road conditions are a lot better. The pavement is smooth, whereas 89A, you do have some rough spots just because the elevation's so high, and it gets hit with snow every year.
So yeah, I was watching your film and saw that you did not run into snow and ice on your way to Arizona Bike Week. I bet you were excited not to have to deal with that again.
Yeah, yeah, that was almost exactly 1 year prior was the unforeseen snow trip. So it was good that it was smooth sailing. It was actually awesome weather this year. It was the weather that you would expect it to be, uh, going into the first week of April in Southern California. It was just in 2023, that was just a fluky situation where that storm, just pummeled us. So, and we're just not equipped out here in Southern California for snow. It's not like we have snow plows on the ready, like these other places do. So, um, Arizona Bike Week is a good destination. I'm always looking for. I'm more of a type of, I guess, rally rider if there's riding at the location. So, um, I've kind of, when you look at things like Arizona Bike Week and you look at things like Sturgis, you don't have to be actually at the rally the entire time. You can kind of just go in all sorts of different directions, and Arizona's got great riding. It's not Sturgis level by any means. I think that's why I love Sturgis so much, is just because of the riding. In any direction that you go, it just never gets old. But this one is has got some of that same flavor. And I mean, I haven't done Daytona. I haven't done any of the East Coast ones, but I know that they're, you know, it's limited on
I think
riding.
it's going to be a letdown for you. Not saying like Daytona, like the rally, it'd be so much of a letdown because there's so much to do, but it's not like watching your films with Arizona Bike Week and Sturgis and all the roads around there. Now, I mean, you got the A1A, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere comparable to like Arizona, and I know not comparable to Sturgis for the roads.
Yeah, I've heard that too. People say it's more of a party rally than it is a riding rally. I just got to mentally prepare myself for that, and it just helps to make the decision on whether I would ride all the way out to something like a Daytona or just fly out just to be there for it. So the first one I might just fly out and just get a bike while I'm there. I really love having my own bike no matter where the location might be. Like my anticipation for East Coast travel is shipping the bike out and then flying in to get it, and therefore I can maximize my time. I've hit all of the same roads multiple times from here to we'll call it Oklahoma on up. So instead of doing those roads over again, I'm just going to ship the bike out and take advantage, and hopefully do the Blue Ridge Parkway and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that'll happen in 2025.
Speaking of the Blue Ridge Parkway, because I didn't get to do it last year, but this year, so that's my June trip coming up in literally just a few weeks. Be headed to Traveling Talls, Run to the Hills 4, go run the Blue Ridge Parkway, some of those roads around there. I was watching, they just redid the road on Teledragon. So I think, if I'm not mistaken on that, they're putting up some basically blockers so people can't just cross over into another lane and go around. So you got to use the turnoff or so it's going to be interesting to get back up there in June. Try to go over to Teledragon, check it out, especially do it on the bagger. I've done it on the Sportster, and that was just a blast on that bike. So I really want to get some pictures on the Teledragon and some footage of the Blue Ridge Parkway. So I'll be doing that in June, and I'm excited for that.
So they're putting cement blocker, like they're putting like a partition barrier in between the lanes, or what?
It's basically just like tall cones almost. From some of the pictures I was seeing. So it's not going to be like a cement blocker, but you'd actually have to, especially on a bike, it'll probably knock you off if you try to go over them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that's going to be just a fun trip. Going up there with the wife, staying at Airbnb, have some friends over there in like Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. Just a lot of awesome roads up in that area. I love going to that direction. And then July, hit Milwaukee again, which I've been watching the content for that. How many content creators are going up there? And then I know Adam's going to be, I think, first like that Friday in Milwaukee because he's doing another convoy. So a lot of people going that way. So maybe I'll end up riding with somebody toward Milwaukee or meeting up with them. If not, I get to see our good friends Scott and Heather while I'm up there. So I'm excited about seeing them. They've come by the house. So, but that's going to be just a great time. So yeah, being able to ship the bike over and enjoy some of the East Coast trips, because see some roads that you haven't rode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's going to be the goal, is hopefully check off some more boxes of some areas that I haven't been. Like I'll be in my Montana trip. I mean, I'm going to try to definitely hit up the 12 if I can when I'm up there, but I'll be going through Ennis, Montana, and I haven't done Ennis. I've been through pretty much all the other places, but depending on the time, like I said, I only got one day from um, the end of my fly fishing with my dad to get over to Sturgis. So
So how long are you
I'll
going to
have
be staying in Sturgis this year?
almost, well, I think it's 10 days, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. I think I'd have to double check. So I'm always, with a trip like this, I'm always going to be open ended as well, because you never know what's going to come about, or I might think of an area that I want to, while I'm in that neck of the woods on my way back, um, and then deciding whether to take the northern route or southern route back home.
So you took 2 months off from your last big film. Then you
Mhm.
filmed Arizona Bike Week. So how are you going to top that next big film?
I don't know.
Or
To be honest with you, I don't know. I always have that in my mind when I'm creating these things. How do I do it better than the previous? And that one's going to be that's going to be pretty tough. That one was it just, I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did, but it pretty much put some gray hairs on my head. And I'm not really sure, when I sit down and I get those projects started and I kind of have a game plan. Sometimes, like in that particular video, I re-edited that thing 4 different ways, um, just because in my head I have the story I want to tell. But sometimes I'll put it out there and I'm like, nope, that's not the direction that I want it to go, and I'll be, you know, and then when I got 3/4 of the way done, and I scrapped the entire thing and I started over, and then I did a complete version and I scrapped it, and then I got halfway done and I scrapped it, and then the final version is the one that's out there. Um, it just, it takes a lot to tell the story that I want to tell, and that's what makes this platform and the YouTube platform so exciting, is because you get to do it any way that you want. There's not Nobody can tell you, um, to do it someplace different. It's exactly how you want to put it together. There's not really anybody. I mean, as long as you stay within the YouTube guidelines, there's nobody that's going to tell you no.
right. Because I mean, how many months you think you took to with scrapping? And because I know you do a lot more work than I know myself, because you do a lot of color grading, you do the voiceovers, a lot of B-roll. About how many months you think or weeks you spent actually editing a video like that? Because I know it was what, 50 minute long video.
Yes, 48 minutes, 48 seconds. So this one took 4 months, 12 days.
Ooh.
So, but that includes finding the music. That includes, you know, going through every frame, making sure that I grab the shots that I want, and then putting it together, and then scripting and voiceover. Yeah, it was a lot. It definitely, it's exhausting to the point where there's no way that I could just do that back to back. Like it takes too much time. There's no way for that time frame. I was unable to really ride a whole lot. I really wanted to get it done by the end of the year, um, and it overlapped into February. So, the end of the year was rolling around, and I thought, okay, I can get this thing done, and that was the second time that I scrapped the project altogether, and I took a second to say, all right, I either want to portray this exactly how I see it and have it be late versus throw it out there and have it be just kind of mediocre, because then I'll have some regrets. So it it took a long time. It tests patience. I'm envious of creators that can just hit record and their personality just lights up and they can say whatever they want into a camera and upload it to YouTube, and um, that's
Well, I
something that
still
I
think you
admire.
kind of got that personality because I mean, being in Milwaukee, you were editing daily videos and be able to kind of do that. But I know watching Every Mile of Memory, Can't Go Back, you know, it was probably the best choice not to just throw it out there because of how much work and time it put in there and how well it's done. So it's kind of one of those fine balances. Um, I know I don't have it in me to do a long video like that and color grade because I really can't do the voiceovers. I've tried doing the voiceovers, so I stay clear of that if I
Mhm.
possibly can because I'm still learning with a lot of the video in and editing. So I try to stick more to kind of a little bit simple. I've gotten into a little bit more of grading of the white balance. Um, and then also making sure like the music, but I get a lot of inspiration from you and seeing like the roads and places. And that's one reason I want to get back out to the West Coast so bad. I mean, I was stationed in California, 29 Palms. So I got down to San Diego area a little bit, out to Vegas, but I didn't do nearly as much riding as I wish I did. I didn't even know about Arizona Bike Week while I was out there because that would have been easy for me to just kind of jump over to that. So there's so much on the West Coast. Um, I think it was when you was coming back from Milwaukee and going through. I think it was the Redlands from Northern California.
The redwoods.
Yeah, Redwoods.
Hmm.
That's just some places that I truly just want to see on a bike. So me and the wife are actually planning September going up the East Coast all the way to like Massachusetts, Maryland, or Maine. A few places along that route, and so that's going to give me some ideas of when I can do it on the bike to go back through.
Oh, so this trip you're not going to do it on the bike?
I'm not.
No.
It's
Oh,
me and the wife vacation, and she wants to do it in the car, and
nothing wrong with
she's
that.
on a little bit more of a time crunch. So it's going to be fun. Actually getting to experience it with her and take basically a 2 week trip with her. So I'm really excited about that part. I kind of hate that I won't be able to do it on the bike and see some of these places, but it's going to give me the opportunity of, hey, this would be a pretty cool road, or I need to come back here on the bike. Um, so it sounds like you're not making the Stubborn American Party this year.
No, no. With my trip in July, I'm still working on all my logistics there. So, yeah, stubborn is going to be, and it's going to be interesting because it's a different time of year. Um, that's it's going to work better in the future because the sheer fact that my kid, both my kids will be out of school, so I don't have to worry about that. That was the kind of a hold back from having my wife go. In the past, she went this past year, but on an actual long riding trip is because we also have the kids that we got to make sure that we get them situated because got to get them to school. Um,
Right. So yeah, that should work out a whole lot better. I won't be making that one, but I'm already kind of planning on trips for next year, doing something different because I've hit Daytona several times in a year or several years in a row. So I'm thinking about doing some of the smaller rallies because I love going out to the like Stub American. I might hit up one of Adams in Eureka during that time. So we got Heather in the house.
Heather. Yeah, they were getting some nice weather this past week. They had it like 80s or something like that. So I think their snow days are over. I think spring is here for them.
So I don't. She might be able to tell it, but I don't know if she's back from Vegas. She might be because I know she's been in Vegas for several days. Because I was watching Scott. He rode all the way to Vegas and then just got back, I think, a few days ago. So, so he did his kind of his cross country trip.
Yeah. Yeah, he put on some miles for sure.
It's kind of making me a little jealous. It's like I'm seeing everybody planning their cross country trips. I'm like, okay, I got to get at least one long distance trip in this year. So that's going to be Milwaukee for me.
Yeah, I definitely the long distance riding is still my favorite thing to do, especially solo. Um, and just picking, a location, but hopefully just making a way to get there on my own. And I stop when I need to stop, and now I can, um, if I'm traveling out to say Oklahoma and I want to go in through different parts of New Mexico, I I can do that and I don't have to worry about it. If I want to take an extra day, that's the other thing that I really enjoyed. Well, coming back from Milwaukee last year was I literally just took my time. I even think I stayed at my buddy's house an extra day. Um, I was really not on a time schedule, so I always try to plan for that. If for some reason I make it back, I mean, there's nothing wrong with spending one more day on the road. Besides the fact that it takes me away from the family. So, uh, this trip I got coming up will be one of the same. I haven't really nailed down how I want to get up to Montana, which is it's going to be the western portion of Montana. Um, but I know that Yosemite is probably going to be one of those things, and then it'll be where sometimes the night before I'll sit in hotels the night before and just be like, "Where's a cool spot?" I first started doing that when I picked up the bike after I blew that transmission at Stubborn American. I went back and I picked it up, and on my way back home, I literally looked at a map in the hotel room. I was like, "All right, where haven't I been that I wanted to go to?" And I would just pick a spot and go, and you don't have to. There's nothing wrong with riding with buddies. I mean, riding with buddies is good, but when you're solo, it just gives you a lot more flexibility.
Scott says Nebraska's not too bad.
He's lying. He is lying. There's no way that he's going to be the only human being that says that doesn't live there. That's going to be like, oh yeah, Nebraska's not too bad because I haven't met one yet. So quit playing coy there, Scotty.
So
Yeah,
we're just like somewhere on the East Coast besides that's not really a rally, but maybe like a cool destination that you've been wanting to hit up. I know like Tennessee for the Blue Ridge Parkway. Where'd be somewhere else that kind of a goal or a true destination that you want to do?
Well, I mean, I definitely wanted to take advantage of. I'm not sure. I mean, I want to go to Laconia just to see Laconia. But I want to make my way all the way up there to from Maine and just the back roads. Yeah, see, there's the wife. Um, the back roads. True story about Nebraska. So real quick, since Scotty has brought this up, my father traveled in a car with a buddy of his through Nebraska when he was younger. And my dad had him pull over and he took a flight home. He said, "Get me out of the car." And he flew home instead. So that should tell you exactly how Nebraska is. Um,
Well, I haven't been through Nebraska, so that's going to probably be one of those experiences. But I really don't have like a set destination to Nebraska or really through there right now. So it might be one of those I just kind of avoid.
yeah. No, I mean, I would like to get to all the back roads all the way from, from Maine all the way down. I know there's beautiful riding throughout there. There's beautiful. You're in South Carolina, right?
Alabama.
Alabama. So like South Carolina, I know has got beautiful riding. Just all those areas. Um, hey, Brad's here. What's up, buddy? Um, all those areas is going to be a whole new, adventure to me where I haven't seen any of those roads. It would out here. I'm not saying I'm pretty spoiled out here because 18 from minutes from my house, I can be in the back roads of San Diego, and I could be out there for hours.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
mean that's where I wish I would have done more riding out there because going out towards San Diego, seeing those hills, it's like, and that's one reason I like doing the long distance travel. Especially when I got the bagger and I started doing this and hitting a lot of those roads, I'm like, I am hooked. Because Alabama does not have really anything desirable to come to. Now, I haven't hit Rattlesnake Saloon, but which is more like the northwest of Alabama. Some of that's not too bad, but the rest of it, I'm like, it's not really a motorcycle destination. I'm like, I just want to get out of the state to ride. It's like, it's just nothing really here. Um, Kind of sad on that side, but it's just kind of the truth. So hitting South Carolina, Tennessee, I look forward just to those short trips, even for those roads.
yeah, I would think that East Tennessee is probably all good riding all the way through there. That's eventually where I'd like to move to is East Tennessee and get out of my state.
I don't blame you there.
The riding's awesome, the weather is awesome, but I just need to to go to a place more in line with my belief system.
Don't blame you. But also, I mean, going from one state that's got a lot of hills and beautiful scenery to another one, but more on the East Coast, you really can't go wrong with Tennessee. I mean, very true, Heather. Well, okay. Memphis is probably the only part I would say is probably not that amazing in Tennessee. But
Yeah, when I look at the maps and things like that, I'm always looking. I see anything east of Knoxville is probably all good riding there. But I haven't been, so it's going to be literally. I'm going to ship the bike probably to Tennessee is where I'll start, um, and then spend as much time as possible, and then ship it back. The only problem with that is it usually takes 4 to 6 weeks to ship your bike out.
okay, I was wondering about that. How long that would take. So that's
For it to
that's
be
definitely
cost
a plan.
effective. I mean, you probably can do it faster, but it's expensive. And then everybody always asks, why don't you just go there and just rent a bike? And you know, when you're traveling in the cross country, it's kind of a different mindset, right? So like out here, I like jamming through the twisties, the back roads. I don't have any luggage with me. Um, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The bike's lighter. When you're traveling and doing long distance travel, your bike's loaded down and you're more at a slower pace. But I still really enjoy having the bike that I built. When I say it's really mechanics that built it. The bike that I have set up for me versus, renting a bike that isn't set up for me, because I have a feeling I never say never. I would still do it. I just prefer to have my own bike wherever I go.
It's a completely different feel though. I mean, jumping on a stock bike to something that and twist to that throttle so many times, you know how it reacts, the sounds, the suspension, and the comfort. So, especially going into like Tennessee and the hills and doing some miles, it's just not going to have that same feeling and something kind of in the back of your mind. It's like, I kind of wish I was on my bike. It's a feeling that you really can't get over. It's like, yeah, I could go rent a bike, but it's just not the same. Um,
Yeah, and a lot of I've heard from a few people that like Tail the Dragon's overrated, and I don't have a vote in that just yet because I haven't been there. Um, but people are like, Tail the Dragon's overrated. But when you look at Tail of the Dragon and its technical turns, I definitely want to make sure that I have the bike that's set up, with a suspension designed for me, for my weight, um, because I think I'll have a lot more fun, and I think it overall probably be a lot safer. I maybe take that back. If you're on a stock bike, you're probably going to slow it down a little bit.
there, Scott.
Currently being
Yep.
repaved. We were just talking about that, Scotty. Time Bandit wasn't on time today.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Teledragon is probably at least do it once. It might be overrated, but see, I've never done it until I did it on the Sportster, and I still haven't done it on the Bagger. So at least I want to do it for those reasons at least once. Have the pictures because they got photographers out there, so I don't really have to set up my own camera to try to take some shots of me. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Sorry, I have to reply to Scotty. Not sure how many people will get that joke, but it's all right. Yeah, no, I mean, either way, if I go out there, I still want to do Tail of the Dragon. I still want to take advantage of the Blue Ridge Parkway. It'd be nice if you're able to do something where maybe you have a place to stay, Airbnb, something like that, where you can drop off all your gear and actually, jam on that road for a little bit versus just kind of pass through. Because something tells me that entire area, I'd probably want to, instead of crushing 400 to 700 miles a day, I'd probably want to take that back a little bit, just taking that experience.
Yeah, I could see that with you because with your photography, your filming, the Blue Ridge Parkway, I can see you probably spending a good hour or so just going down that road, just for some of the scenery. Because while you're up in Northern California doing some of the red redlands, no, I'm getting that
Redwoods.
redwoods. I don't know why I'm thinking redlands, but redwoods. How long do you actually spend on that road? Like for that one shot that you got, which I believe is for your thumbnail.
Yeah. So it's actually that shot right back over there. That shot.
Yep.
Yeah. The I mean, just that particular portion, I was off my bike for 45 minutes and I was losing daylight. Um, and the crazy thing about that road, the Avenue of the Giants, it actually runs parallel to Pacific Coast Highway. So you can take it for as long as it'll let you. It'll go several hundred miles. Um, but it's amazing, the entire area in itself. I wish that's one of those things where I wish I had more time, or I would have got there earlier, um, so that I didn't feel rushed. Because after spending 45 minutes at that stop, there was a few others that I stopped and pulled over just to take it in. Um, I had to really start looking at time, because my goal was actually that the very next day, um, to get home, which meant I had to get up at dark early, and I didn't get in till pretty late at night. I forgot how many miles it was. I think it was like 800 or something like that. So it was a very long day, but I had to make it to that location. Um, any gap or shortcoming of that, it was going to be pretty much like doing an iron butt. So
Yeah, because I almost made you late for your anniversary the first year I met you, which
yeah,
finally last year apologized to your wife. So that way of almost making you late, because that was one of the whole things about you making Stubborn American Party that year. It's like, hey, you got to be home for their anniversary. And the bike goes down, and I'm like, okay, hey, you can go. My dad's on the way, but you just stayed, helped to slow the bike, and then had to just book it at that point through Texas to wherever you stopped that night. And I forgot what kind of bad weather you ran into on that trip, but I think you ran into
it was a
what?
dust storm in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I hit that dust storm right outside of Phoenix. That sucked. Um, the yeah, and those are the types of things that you know you you can't necessarily plan for it, but you have to expect that you're going to run into bad weather. It's crazy to think. I didn't realize, and I don't know why until I started traveling on a bike, but it doesn't matter the time of year. You spend enough miles on your bike, you're going to run into bad weather. It's not, and I'm in Southern California, so that's why it sounds odd. Everybody's like, yeah, no kidding, idiot. But for me, we can typically ride here all year round. This year's been a really wet year in comparison. But other than that, from here all the way through probably December, um, maybe even later than that, I mean, it's going to be sunny skies, especially inland San Diego. It's just going to be, sunny skies no matter how far you ride. But when you travel around, there's all sorts, especially Midwest has always got some type of fluky weather, and you see it in Sturgis, where there's going to be a storm, a rainstorm, or something, um, at least once while you're there, unless you went last year, and then it pretty much rained all but the last, I think, 3 days of Sturgis. Um, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen this year. It'll be Scott and Heather's first time out there, so fingers crossed that we go back to the regular stuff. It was 2 years ago, I think, where we didn't have any bad weather for the entirety of the rally, which was really nice. Um, and now it is, they got all that rain last year, so I'm hoping we just get back to normal.
Yeah, Scott. If you're gonna ride with Ryan, prepare for bad weather or bring rain gear.
I get people that comment that say uh, that comment. They're like, "Oh yeah, you know, you just did that for the footage." And it's so funny. I had no intentions of almost dying in a tornado. I had no intentions of going into that dust storm. I had no intentions of riding the snow to Arizona Bike Week. I mean, you can't plan for something like that. I literally was saying that, hey, I'm going to probably hit some rain on the way out. That's all that it said to expect. No, nothing said anything about snow, or I wouldn't even have tried it. Because again, as we had already talked about, San Diego's not built for that. We don't have salt machines and snow plows and all. I mean, there's nothing that we have. The one good thing that just happened recently, which I'm trying to set up, there is a father of one of the motorcyclists that were on the side of the road stranded, um, that said, "Hey, that was my son and his crew." So I'm trying to sit down with these guys to have them tell their side of the story of why those bikes were there, what happened,
Oh
and
wow.
therefore do kind of a follow up on that, because that was the most bizarre thing. And I knew I was in trouble when I saw all of those bikes on the side of the road. I knew this was a idiotic uh, idea, but looking at the snow that was piling on, for the off ramp just created by cars, and then knowing that the off ramps, especially going out the 8, each off ramp has a downhill slope. So with that downhill slope at the bottom, that's where you're going to run into your icy conditions. And so I just elected, looking over that, I just elected to keep the handlebars straight and slow the bike down and just power through it. And I can't tell you how excited I was when I finally broke free of all that and got to the bottom of that grade, because then it was 80 degrees. So
Right. Yeah, because I remember seeing all that footage, and that was just crazy.
yeah,
Um,
none of them, none of the bad weather I've been through would I ever want to do it again or ask somebody, yeah, you should give that a try, because it's not worth it. I never want to do that again. I almost missed the tornado for the sheer fact that my batteries died in both my GoPros. And if it wasn't for me pulling over 3 minutes before I hit that tornado, um, to say, hey, I at least am going to have one battery in one of the GoPros, to film myself showing up to my location at my buddy's house, would have missed the whole thing altogether. It would have been like the fish that got away. Nobody would have believed me, minus the fact that there was articles that my buddy's wife posted. Not posted. She had sent me the next day, because one person died in that tornado, and it was kind of showing me the path of everything where that was at. Um, and man, yeah, I don't want to do that again. In Iowa, what Brad was talking about, um, Iowa weather, but Iowa's winds are no joke. And I Iowa had a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth when it left a little bad taste in my mouth when I visited Brad out there, because of those winds and just the farm town. And that was the same day that I actually hit the tornado. I left Brad from Iowa and went up to Minnesota. Um, but the I want to say, when I was with Scott, when we were on the Great American Convoy last year, we rode through a different section of Iowa, and it was gorgeous. It was really nice.
yeah, I mean, being out there on the road, you can only prepare so much. I mean, rain gear, but things are always expected to change, or but it's all part of it. I mean, you gotta love doing the long distance. You gotta love riding. You know, if you didn't, then you would just hang it up. But you can't expect to just have perfect weather the entire time, especially when you're putting down several thousand miles. I mean,
Yeah, no, it absolutely, and you got to invest money into good rain gear. I mean, that's the biggest thing, to where it's not cumbersome to put it on. Um, it's keeps you dry. Unless you last year, my all the weather sealing came off of my rain gear, and so I showed up to the stubborn American, Great American Convoy, completely soaked, frozen. None of my rain gear was working. I actually threw it out on that trip. Um, but yeah, you gotta have good rain gear. Um, just kind of expect that bad weather, and try to only ride during daylight hours. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but as soon as you throw in nighttime in general on a bike is going to be more dangerous. But
Yeah,
it's
and sometimes you have to. I mean, I was headed to the Great American Convoy to meet up with you guys. I had a deadline and I was planning on, okay, it's getting dark, pull over, get a hotel room. Well, I didn't know the area. And when I was starting to show up to the first hotel, I'm like, okay, this is looking a little sketchy. It's like, okay, let's mosey on up. And I'm telling the wife, and she's like, what? It's like, yeah, I don't feel safe here. So had to push throughout the night. I mean, luckily I only had to go 50 more miles up the road to a nicer area. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But
it's amazing
definitely
how
on
those last 50 miles feel like eternity.
it does. And see, I was out in the middle of nowhere doing those last 50. So it really was slow. I was behind an 18 wheeler. So I'm like, okay, just make sure there's no deer. I mean, luckily it was just open fields. But around here, I definitely don't ride at night because there's too many trees and woods and too many deers just jumping out around here. I've had one real close experience with a deer literally jumping out in front of me. And if I had been any later being on the brakes or if it had jumped out and got that deer in the headlight, there would have been no stopping and would have just smacked right into the deer. So I prefer if I don't have to ride at night, but being like Daytona and some of the cities, it feels real amazing to be out at night. So it's just kind of, I guess, depending on where it's at. But traveling wise, I don't really like to do that at night. Just raises that not awareness, but basically hazard goes up a lot higher because people trying to see you and just one of those situations. I mean, if I have to, I will, but if I can avoid it, um, but that's all about being out on the road. Just
Yeah. Well, my first bad experience with weather was actually my first trip to Sturgis when I left Keystone and got caught in a freak storm. I had no idea at the time that those storms kind of blow through and you could wait them out. Um, so maybe that's where this curse started. The sheer fact that I tried to challenge it, and there's lightning everywhere, deer on the side of the road, and Sturgis is full of deer. So yeah, it's crazy. Nighttime is not my favorite.
so about how many miles like last year or average do you put on your bike? Or how many did you do like kind of like last year?
Last year I did just over 28,000. So that was, yeah, last year was 28,000. So I'm trying to get the bike up to 100. Um, might happen, I'd say by February of next year.
Okay.
So depending on how many trips, maybe by Arizona Bike Week next year. But yeah, right now it's at 60, almost 65,000 miles, and hopefully this trip in July will probably push another 8,000 on it. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't think I'll do as many miles as I did last year. This year, I think this year I'll probably be around the 18,000 mark, 18 to 20,000.
Yeah, I won't be close to that. I think I calculated it up last year being close to 12,000 miles. I mean, that was hitting Daytona, Texas, Oklahoma. That's just Trace Parkway, Milwaukee. So getting back, so this year is going to be kind of a slow year for me on the miles, a lot more around the house. Still making Milwaukee, but I want to do 1 year, put about 20,000 miles on the bike, and I would love to just take off and like a month on the road, do something like that.
Yeah.
but it's just something about being on the road. Um, but what got you into motorcycles? Like, what kind of actually started it for you? Was it somebody or just
Well, it's kind of crazy. It's the story is something I'm planning for well, the actual this year's documentary is actually the story of just that, but I'll tell you exactly how it happened. So when I was 8, 10 years old, my dad and I were out camping in the eastern portion of San Diego, um, in the Anza Desert. We got done camping, and I think it was a Sunday morning. And over there was this gas station in Ocotillo where a whole bunch of dirt bikes were there, like fueling up, and everybody's kind of kitted out. They got matching jerseys with their bikes and things like that. And I'm 10 years old. And my dad said that he tells me while we're sitting in his car as these bikes were crossing over the gas station, and he's like, one of these days we'll get a couple of dirt bikes. And immediately I'm thinking one of these Christmases or one of these birthdays, I'm going to have a dirt bike, is going to be there under the tree or something. So I always thought that was going to be the case. It ended up being this ongoing joke because it never happened. One year, my dad wrapped up a little Tonka toy dirt bike thing, and he's like, "There you go, got you a dirt bike." Um, so then we went on a fly fishing trip. We were up in Montana, and at this time, I think I'm 17 years old. And he says, we're at this hotel, and there's this father and son that come in, and they're on a couple of cruisers. I can't remember the makes, but he makes the statement to me in the car. He's like, "Hey, one of these days we'll get a couple of Harleys, and we'll ride across the country. Put a back tire in the Pacific Ocean and put our front tire in the Atlantic Ocean and ride across the country." So here I am daydreaming about this cross country trip on a motorcycle. So later on that summer, I this guy I went to school with, his name was Jake, and we were hanging out, and he lived in this place called Valley Center out here, just kind of a rural area. I went over to his house, and in the garage there was 2 Yamaha dirt bikes, and I was like, "Oh man, these things are sweet." And I'm taking a look at them, and I remember his dad walking in, and Jake like being like, "Dude, we should go for a ride." And his dad looks over. He's like, "Ryan, do you know how to ride?" And I mean, what do you do in that situation except for you lie? And I said, "Yeah, I know how to ride." Um, so to this day, I learned how to ride a motorcycle by looking over and using my peripheral vision to watch Jake do whatever. I mean, I understood the concept of like throttle, and there's a brake here and there's a clutch here, but I was just kind of I'd never tried to synchronize any of it, never practiced, never did anything. So I was just watching him, and actually I was on his left side, so I was just kind of watching his peripheral vision, and I put it into gear, and we went rolling away. So then, um, oh, thank you very much. Um, the Yeah, so I get in gear, we start taking off. Well, I don't know, you know, how to downshift, how to do anything. And that comes into play a little bit later because we get to this hill. And of course, I'd been upshifting because I was watching what he was doing, and I was upshifting, and it was sloppy, but I didn't fall down. And we're on these like hard packed dirt roads, and then we hit this hill. And of course, my buddy Jakes makes it all the way to the top of this hill, but I don't know how to downshift. So I stall out halfway up this hill. And of course, at that particular time, I'm blaming the bike. I'm saying that something's going on with the bike, and trying to make up all sorts of turns or something like that. And but ended up figuring that out. Didn't hurt myself. So really got the bug at that point. But of course, when you're young and you're dumb, the Harley is not something you're really looking at because everybody is on the crotch rockets. So I had my buddy had a Honda F4, and I was working with him. Worked for the same company. He brought it in, and he let me ride around the parking lot. And of course, he's like, "Hey, do you know how to ride?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I've ridden before, but now it's not necessarily a lie." So I take this thing for a spin through the parking lot. And I absolutely fell in love. Um, Told my dad I wanted to get a bike, and he was hoping it was going to be a Harley. I said, "No, it's going to be a crotch rocket." So went out, got my first bike was a ZX6R, and had that before graduating into the bigger bikes and going into the Gixxer 750s, and just having a blast. And this is the bike I have right now is my first Harley. Um, that's pretty much it. That's how that story goes. Took some time off after my oldest daughter was born. I mean, I'd lost 4 friends riding motorcycles. None of them doing anything stupid. They pretty much are all riding home. So took some time off from that, and then every year I would go through withdrawals, and I just kind of fight through them. It lasts about 90 days, and then I um, just kept on having these revelations, like there's something missing in my world. And finally I was talking with the wife, and she knew how I was. I've got a very addictive personality. When I go and do something, I'm all in. So back in the day when I used to ride, crotch rockets, I mean, there would be 100 of us on Friday and Saturday night. You could anytime, day or night. I mean, shoot, I didn't drink alcohol till I was 24 years old, 23, 24 years old, because I was always riding. Day or night. And you didn't want to be that guy where your buddy hits you up at 11 o'clock at night and say, "Let's go for a ride," and you had been drinking. So yeah, we never drank, but that's also where the filming side of me started. Was my very first production was a motorcycle stunt video, and I did it because my buddy said I couldn't, and the rest of it was history. And that's pre-YouTube. So I think that film came out in 2001 on DVD. So
Yeah, see, I got somewhat a similar background. Because it started out on a dirt bike. I gotta say, like probably 12 years old. Dad gets me a dirt bike of having good grades. Started out on it, and then moved to a 250. But I never went the whole crotch rocket scene, even at 18 years old, 17. That my Sportster is what I got for graduation, and I still have it. So, but that was being around a lot of the older, a lot of my dad's friends. So being around them and them all riding Harleys, that's what I kind of fell into, and doing some of the not Patriot Guard rides, but escort rides for fallen heroes, Legion Rider. So I went the whole Harley route right off the bat, and then dad gives me his bagger, and then it's like, okay, now I've upgraded and doing more touring, because I was trying to make my Sportster bigger, faster, but where I could still do some trips on it. I'd ride it all the way down to Daytona, um, but it's still not as comfortable as that bagger. So it's always kind of interesting to hear what inspired somebody to get into motorcycles, because somebody, it's either a family member or they just saw somebody or a friend. So that's something I always like hearing, because it's like, yeah, I got into this and now I'm hooked and I don't want to let it go, because I feel like everybody should experience it some way, or there's just that bug that just inspired them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different world, and there's certain people out there that will never get on a bike, no matter what you or I try to tell them. They're just never going to do it. But it is something that my entire world has been created from that experience of getting that first bike, including, you know, my wife. Like if it wasn't for that experience, I wouldn't have met my wife, and you know, the friends. I mean, Danny, who's my best friend, lives in Minnesota, but he lived out here, and he was one of those people that I rode with every single weekend. There was no doubt what you were doing on a Friday or Saturday night in circa 2000, 2001, 2002, probably all the way to 2003. Um, there was no doubt what anybody was doing at that time. If you had a bike, we would meet in Pacific Beach. We would ride at nighttime and go down to downtown San Diego. And when I say it's not an exaggeration, there would be 100 of us, and it wasn't a rally, it wasn't a plan to anything. Everybody just knew that's where everybody was at. So,
Scott.
what is he referring to?
Yes, and then
He started on a car 1000. Cool. Yeah, he corrected it, but I'm still going to call him out on that. So, but I do have a hard out here. I got to get going here pretty quick.
All right, Ryan. Yeah, thanks for coming on, and
Yeah,
I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll catch you down the road, buddy.
Yeah, hopefully we can catch up this year.
Hopefully so.
All right, take care, man. Thank you.
Later.